Alright guys, so here is how to set up the emulator like for Gran Turismo 4 and install the modification. So first of all, you go to pcsx2.net, then click downloads, then you scroll down and you choose the dev builds. The difference is they pretty much allow you to install all of the textures and stuff. And I also recommend you to use the AVX2 since it provides the better performance. You should only use SSE4 in case you have older GPU, so you just click download. Alright, so I'm gonna quickly overview the settings right now. So speaking of graphic settings, render to Vulkan since it provides the best performance. The only reason you shouldn't use Vulkan is when you cannot use it, like when your GPU does not support it. Then in that case you always use DirectX 12 or 11 if it's like if 12 is not supported, but both of these should be supported on the modern hardware. Adapter should be always chosen to your main GPU. The interlacing should be set to automatic, texture filtering to default. GPU palette conversion is pretty much the trade-off between GPU and CPU. When it's unchecked, it's gonna make your game looking a little bit better. The internal resolution is pretty much how much your GPU and CPU can handle, but it's mainly the GPU work. I usually run it on 6 when I play single player and on 4 when I run multiplayer, so I avoid any kind of lag. Usually it's 6. Detailing should be set to off, mapping should be set to off. This one has to be set to off when you use the modification, because when you try to use it with the modification, if you switch between the hardware mode and software mode to do a VRAM dump, it's gonna crash your game. It's pretty much, you can even get the warning in program log that mini mapping is not supported or something like this, I'm not really sure. The blending accuracy is pretty much how bright your reflections are gonna be. So this one is mostly the CPU loading. I usually go on full, high or full. And the texture preloading should be set to full. The hex step. Alright, so here you have to enable them. And you have to check the sprite, round sprite to full, and the texture offsets. Those settings pretty much fix the wheels that are broken in Gran Turismo 4. Alright, once you set up the graphic settings, you can go to general settings. You choose your BIOS. Here you pretty much, the emulator should ask you if you wanna make the path, so you always click yes. And once it's created, you should have something like this. Those are pretty much the CRC codes of the games, like with the region and the numbers. And here we're gonna come back later once I'm gonna explaining how to install the modification. Here you pretty much change the clamping mode from normal to full. It's gonna fix the times between rivals and the missing icons. This one, the clamping mode, is gonna fix the same issue. The GS tab, you leave everything to default. GS window, you should change the aspect ratio to 16.9 or other we are using, but it should be set in mostly 16 to 9. The zoom should be set to like 100.50, 101, around this, so it pretty much removes the trash that occurs in corners once you are using the full screen mode. Alright, so the speed hex is also like the tricky one. It mainly depends on what kind of CPU you have. Like in my case, I have the i7 8th generation. So in this case, I could use the EE cycle rate set to 2. As far as I know, it's also gonna help you on the weaker CPUs. But on the weaker CPUs, I recommend you to use MTVU instead of Instant VU1. But it's pretty much something you have to check on your own. And the game fixes step, you don't change anything. Now I'm gonna show you how to install the modification. So now, first you have to do is you have to boot your game and you can close it for now. Here you should be able to see the CRC code of your game that you have. In my case it's SCUS 97328. Once you have it, you are going to the textures. You should have the CRC code over here. If you don't have it, you go to config, graphic settings, advanced, low textures. It should create two of these folders in the CRC code folder. You can uncheck this for now. Here you should be able to find two folders. The one of them is called dumps, which you're not gonna use, and the second one is called replacements, and this is where we're gonna put our modification. Once you download the file from the description, you have to unpack the folder and you should see the folder called replacements. So now you can go to textures, the CRC code of your game, it's gonna depend on the version you are using. You can delete the replacements folder previously created here. And you pretty much drag the replacements folder that you just downloaded and unpacked. And that's it. Your mod is already installed. To activate the mode, you go to config, graphics settings, advanced, and you check the load textures. And that's it. Here using our modification,